Good morning, Australia, and good evening, USA, and everybody else who has signed up and is watching us from around the globe. We've got quite a few people online. My name is Waltraud Reiner, and I am thrilled to speak to a person today who is into hat making and I know nothing about. I have not researched her. I have not decided on her merits or what amazing work she does or not amazing work she does. I just picked her because she happens to live in Florida. And Florida is a place where a dear person of mine, she is 93 years old. She used to live in here in Australia. She had become a friend of mine as a client. She used to come and have hats made. That then turned into a deep friendship, and she eventually moved back to the States, where she now lives since many years. But I think fondly of her because she is an incredible source of inspiration. She doesn't matter how hard her life is, she finds a smile and a joke, and she finds the beauty in life. So this is why I would like to introduce to you, just as much as to myself, to Bunny. Show yourself.
Okay.
Where is she?
It's not letting me. Oh, it's doing the thing it did earlier.
Okay, well, let me see if I can help you, because it's always interesting how, here we go.
There we go. I
There you
love
go.
technology.
Welcome.
Hello.
And as I just said, Bunny, it's if you hear knocking, I apologize. There's an electrician downstairs, and I hope he's going to stop soon. That banging noise in between. Now, as I just said it, it's terrible, but we have got Easter ahead of us, and I do want to state really clearly, I did not choose Bunny because Easter is happening, and it's sort of a few days away. I was checking with you in emails once or twice if this is your name or if this is just the company name or the business name, and you assured me this is your name and this is it. And Bunny identifies as she, her, and lives in Florida, and this is really everything I know about her, except I also know that she's a little bit into steampunk, I guess, um, and
Yeah.
and stereotyping. I will go. I know that because of her braces. You know how we very quickly associate some sort of the way people dress. We already put them into a box of you are this or that, and and that can be very dangerous. So I refrain these days from stating things like that, because apart from steampunk, I'm sure there's many more things you are, and that you have more interests and more going on for your life. So I just would like to hand over to you and tell us a little bit about yourself, including me. What would you like us to know of who Bunny is?
Well, I am Bunny Bragg. I am the owner of Green Bunny Hats. I have been making hats for, wow, 20 years. I do actually have a very big affinity for Victorian. I do like steampunk for that reason. Those hats are my favorite. Bowler hats are my absolute favorite. Um, I am very passionate about people learning more about millinery as much as possible. I have a YouTube channel for people to be able to make hats at home with what they just might have in their house. Because way back in the Victorian eras, that was a way for
I'm
housewives to
online,
afford
right?
houses, to afford making hats in their houses. So I really appreciate that it's something that people can do with everyday things if they purchase the right materials, or just have like their hat forms, or they can buy cape lines, et cetera, et cetera. And I often ramble.
That's okay. With the rambling, often I think I am a great rambler. I do understand about that. I start somewhere and want to tell you about straw, and within 5 minutes, I am telling you that how the felt is made, which has really not much to do with straw. So I get that. And I also get that sometimes part of that is forgetting. Sometimes I'm feeling what was I just talking about? And I forgot that. So you go on to something else. And I was part of a Zoom meeting the other day with a mental health professional who has written several books, and I'm so grateful I was able to be part of, because world of technology allows us to participate in classes and seminars and around the world. And I could never have traveled to him, because number one, he doesn't do big events anymore, public ones, because he's 99 years old.
Oh
But he's
my.
still 99. He still writes books. He's just finished a book. He speaks very succinctly and very eloquent. And he said, halfway through, he said, I let you into a secret. I think I can say that now. But ever so often, I must start on an answer, and then I have forgotten what the question was. Because and then I just finish off with something, and I hope it will be informative. And I thought that was such a beautiful way of acknowledging it doesn't really matter if we are 99 or if we are 40 or 30 or whatever we are at. We do forget things. We can forget things because of stress. Then all of a sudden, the online presence, we're supposed to perform, which I hope you don't, because this is not a performance. This is a conversation between you and I, and nobody is listening. It's just you and I getting to know each other. And so whatever happens, that's where we go, and that's basically it. So you said, if I can take you back, Bunny, you said that you were teaching. So I'm interested in your beginnings. You look very young to me to start off with. I have no idea how old you are, but you look young. So where did it start for you? Why did it start? And how did it start?
My passion for hats actually started when I was in high school. I am actually 41 years old.
Wow.
I
I
look
thought you are
younger.
young, quirky, and 26.
Well, thanks. I started collecting any antique hats I could get my hands on, and I've had them for years and years and years. Some of them started to fall apart, and I was kind of fascinated on their construction, so I started learning how to repair them. And I went from there, got all the books I could possibly get my hands on, just teaching myself stuff. I've taken a few auditing classes in college for costume making, just specifically for hats. Just anything I could get my hands on the internet later on, and just started buying hat blocks that were from a company called hatshapers.com, which they're plastic. So that's a good way to start out. It's like $35 for them.
But that was only lately, right? Because head shapers, they haven't been around long.
I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I bought my first hat shaping block from them, about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Or so.
So that's what I thought might be the lifespan. They've been around since about 10 years, when the printing started, when see, I'm already looking for a word. My brain is needs to be shaken into place. thermal printing.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
they
So
do the vacuum form.
they do the vacuum forms in plastic. Yes. Look,
As
I agree with you. It's wonderful to get a cheap hat block. I feel very ambivalent about it because of the plastic and what we are creating. There's all these exciting new techniques, and which makes the process less expensive. And at the same time, we are creating more and more and more, which is really harmful to our environment. I'm struggling with this all the time. Also in millinery, I've just done it with Denise Wallace from the States. Do you know Denise Wallace?
I do not.
Well, I have to tell you about that in a minute. Better make a note. Well, I tell you now. Denise Wallace is runs classes in the States. She's into theater, and I would have thought that you would definitely be aware of Denise because she has got a big theater background. She also teaches. She lives in the Boston area. She has lots of techniques which are needed in theater, and we do webinars together, and we have done a thermoplastic webinar the other day, um, talking about all sorts of thermoplastics beyond the Foss shape and the Wonderflex. And I feel ambivalent about that too. They are exciting and wonderful materials, but again, they are plastics. And what we can rework most of them, and they have a way of being reintegrated again into something else. But are we doing that as people? So that is
I've used a little bit of the Foss shape before, and I love the old fashioned materials and the traditional materials. So just I much rather have my hands on buckram or the felt or straw. It's just the Foss shape to me. It's just it. I like the organic feel,
mm,
and it didn't. I don't know. Don't want to sound oddly spiritual about it, but just I feel connected to the work that I do just through history, and that
mm,
since it's such a new material, it felt so odd to me. It was
yes,
like bizarre and alien working
yeah,
with it as like this is not what I'm used to, which I know like trying to grow and learn more things, obviously you want to try and up your game
mm,
and
mm,
work with more materials,
mm,
but it was just it didn't have the same look and feel, and it
mm,
just didn't seem as clean to me.
yeah. I like that when you say you feel a connection. By the way, I would like to ask the audience if you have got any question, put it in Q&A. Q&A only I see, and I will ask those questions as we go along. And if you have something to share as something is being said, you might want to pop it in the comment box. If it's a link or something, you can pop that on if you want everyone to see it. So that's up to you. But please ask lots of questions. Don't be shy. I don't know who you are, who is asking the questions, because the settings are anonymous, I think. But I won't say your name. So now, if I can take you back, Bunny, to you say you feel oddly connected and you don't want to sound spiritual. Can you say a little bit more about that?
um just the history of hat making is just such an interesting cultural thing, and just how hats have gone through the ages of status symbols and who was able to make them. And then you had, times of war where like fashion and hats were used as uh, being able to be revolutionary and show, where you stood and pride. And all of that is just in all of the materials that we use in the hat blocks, and that not a lot of it has changed over time and how we do it. That I just feel like being able to make a bowler hat again, which is my favorite, just connects me to all of that history into now that we're still wearing these fashions, and it's been so long, and there are people that are still into, like wearing things that Marie Antoinette wore and whatnot, that we can still do the historical reenacting and all of that just is at my fingertips, and it just means a lot to me to be able to share that with other people.
It warms my heart, um, because I do share that very much. I come from a European background of where the it's a lot of emphasis is being placed on where do we come from, what is the material made from I'm actually working with, and that there needs to be an understanding, and certainly with the fashion degree I did an understanding of how is the material produced, what goes into it, the different weaves, the different for the fabrics, and that you can't just make something without knowing it's. And I connect that to us as people. In order to understand me, I need to understand my ancestors. I need to understand my mother and grandmother and great grandmother, because elements of that has come down in my DNA. So if I want to take myself as a hat, if I am a hat, I don't just appear like the magic hat. I was made and formed throughout history. And then this is the raw material. And what do I do with that raw material? How do I shape it? And what is that raw material capable of being as a human? That's how I connect history back to in my work, in what I do. And I'm fascinated by specifically also the bowler hat, because the bowler hat is such an interesting story and is so important, and is such it's such a no hat has holes on the top for a reason, but the bowler
Yeah.
hat. And I wonder how many people out there know that.
That's my favorite hat to tell. Like anytime I do seminars or classes, just to tell the history about the bowler
Yeah.
hat. I mean, it was used as a defensive and offensive weapon. How many hats can you say that you could hit somebody over the head with it and like
Yes.
do some damage? That's a
Yeah.
wonderful hat.
Yeah. Please share some more, because I'm sure, I have goosebumps. I'm excited about it just because I think of it again, and you're raising it. Let people know, there might be some who aren't aware of that, how it came about.
I believe it was Lord Coke that had commissioned it from the Bowler brothers to
In
make him
London.
hats, yeah, in London, to make him hats for his groundkeepers so they didn't brain themselves on branches when they were walking around. And basically, they made a really fancy hard hat for them. They have the ventilation just so they don't overheat and they look amazing and stylish. And throughout time, it's gone up and down as a status symbol. And there was a period of time where you'd have, bankers wearing it, but then you had also ruffians wearing it. They would put sharpened pennies in the brim and would get into street fights with a hat. There's barjitsu, which a lot of people know from Sherlock Holmes, that there was a fighting style that you could actually use offensive or defensive. So if somebody came at you with a knife, you can actually use the bowler hat to get it stuck in and like deflect it, or you could use it as, the
A
offensive weapon
shield.
and literally hit them in the head.
Yeah, a shield, or hit them. And when you look at it, our very common yellow hard hats we know all over the world, they are very alike to the bowler hat. There's not much difference. It's the bowler hat really was the first yellow hard hat, but belonged to an era where status was important and people did the gardening in tails and a bowler hat, the groundkeepers.
It's by far the to me the most, even like top hats, yes, they're absolutely beautiful, they're elegant, but the bowler hat is the most beautiful. And
Yeah.
the varying brims that you can do the Western style, Victorian, traditional, curled, flat, like it's I love them to pieces.
Yeah.
And you can put the different designs, doing
Yeah.
the ventilation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
which I've done all of this, and I love making them. I love repairing them. When
Mm.
somebody brings me an old antique to, they give it to me and they entrust that to me to be able to restore it and fix it for them. I absolutely love doing that.
Mm. So your heart and soul by the sounds of it. And when I say soul, that sounds spiritual too. But I do, we have nothing else but our language, and we need to wrap around somehow words around the meaning. And we all have a gut feeling, and we all have an instinct, and we talk about those kind of terminology. And I guess for me, this is summed up in the soul, in the spirit each one of us carries within. And so it's not outside of me, it's inside of me, and what I react to. And it sounds to me, you react to that part of history and beautiful old materials, and you would be having wonderful materials coming your way in repairing materials we do not see anymore manufactured, right?
Yeah, I know. There's certain materials that, like the willow, that the manufacturing for that is shut down, and you can't get the willow bark to make certain types of top hats. And that to me just it hurts my heart that they're like materials that they're just so either impossible to find or they just don't exist anymore that we used to use. And I want to bring that back.
And when you say willow bark, you mean a spar tree?
Yes.
Yes. I just want to clarify that, because around the world we do have different terminology. And so I just looked if my internet is plugged in, because there was a flicker. Sorry. And I thought, duh, we couldn't be talking if it's not plugged in. Yes, around the world we have different terminologies again. Like languages, we have different languages as humans we speak, so also we have different words for different materials. And willow is known as a spar tree, and that has over the history had even different spellings. There's not one spelling. And
sorry, to be rude to interrupt. I actually have a question that I really desperately want to ask.
Go.
So, Cape Line or Capeline?
Well, same thing. I call it I call it capeline.
Capeline?
Capeline, yeah. Capeline, sleeve, and many, and I think it's like herb and herb, tomato. It's
aluminium.
What?
Aluminium.
That's right. And I guess I'm not sure you're a better judge. Maybe Americans say more capeline. I guess the English language might want that because the I is an I, capeline. I speak German, so I have a hard enough time to string words together to make some sort of sense. So I'm not for a minute claiming I got the right pronunciation, but I call it capeline. I'm almost swallowing the E I hear, capeline. But what I am what to me is an important distinction to make, which seems I have sort of taken on from my training in London, that a hood is not a hood. A hood does not mean it's a sleeve. You know the cone?
Yes.
A hood is a hood, and that hood is on top, and then it differentiates between a capeline and a sleeve or a cone or whatever you want to call it. So it's the two things sit underneath, and both of those are hoods.
Yes.
What we have here in Australia, there's often people ask, they want to buy a hood, and what they mean by it, they mean a sleeve or a cone, not necessarily the capeline. So I find that is an important distinction to make or to know about, not even to take it on, just to know about, to check in. Because what do you know it to be? Is a hood for you what?
Just the sleeve, and if I talk to any of my suppliers or anything like that, they know it as the hood. And if I were to ask them for a sleeve, they would have no idea what I was talking
and if you
about.
ask for cone,
then they'd know what I was talking about. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Because there's also, I don't know if you guys still have got access to Cornets, the very oversized cones. Do you still, or have you got some in your stash, being so
Uh,
into old things?
the only thing that I've been able to get oversized are the oversized capelines. They call them gentlemen's capelines, and that's the only oversized. They don't actually give us any oversized hoods. I would love to have some
Mm,
oversized hoods, but
mm. And by
I'm not
hoods, you mean
sleeves.
cones? Okay. Sleeves. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I just checked because I would not have gotten away with that. I would have ordered constantly the wrong thing. But I'm now keenly aware that that is a common way for people to orientate themselves. And so I just double check, to just make sure, am I hearing you right? It doesn't, I'm not saying you have to all take on now what Waltraud says, because who knows if I'm right. But that's my way of making sense in the hat making world for myself. And that's how I hand the knowledge on, and then it's up to people what they do with it. But anyway, we haven't gotten very far. I feel like I want to sit with you a long time. So you started at high school already. You were interested in repairing. But what was it about the hat? When did you first become aware, I love hats and I want to wear one?
Uh,
Did that go
when
together?
uh, I really okay. So in Philadelphia, when I lived close to Philadelphia, I used to go over there when I was in high school. I wasn't really exposed to hats much before being able to go to Philadelphia on my own, other than like when I was little, used to wear the cute little berets. Um, but other than that, was baseball caps and whatnot. I walked into Dietz Hats on South Street in Philadelphia, and I bought myself a top hat that they actually monogrammed the inside for me with my name, and
How
I
old
wore
were
that.
you?
Oh, I was, I think, 16. And I wore that all the time,
When
all the
I
time.
when I was 16, I bought myself with my hard saved pocket money, which was not very little, a red felt hat, which was totally outrageous. It would be
Oh, I
like
love it.
a top hat was. I'm sure you were outrageous to buy a top hat. And I wore this hat because in Austria, where I come from, nobody wears hats other than maybe in winter when it belongs to a traditional outfit. Then that it wasn't a hat wearing culture. Fur, fur caps, fur hats, all that kind of thing was worn, of course, but not that red hat. Amazing. I was
I love it.
16 too. Was in my 15th year, like to going 16. Uh,
I was just a silly little goth girl who liked Victorian clothes and top hats and bunny ears.
Now, that sounds to me would have been, was that easy in with your friends? Did you have a cohort where you could do that, or were you sort of on the fringe?
I had my own group of friends that we all hung out. We were just our own little silly weirdos, and we weren't bothered or harassed by anybody. There, we were just the strange kids in high school.
Now, isn't it interesting that you label yourself weirdos and strange kids? Where How do you know you are the weirdo and the strange kid?
Fair enough.
Mm,
Just more so,
I
it's
think,
like, okay, we were just there.
yeah, we are very quickly, and we keep doing it. I mean, it's happening all around us, and I catch myself, in a thought pattern at times. That's weird because I can't do this or make this or say this because it hasn't been said before. So that's what makes it weird. But does it? You know, is it not? Why do I not ask? Isn't it weird that nobody thought of that yet? You know. maybe that fact is more weird than the weirdness that you do think of it, you know, because we think of different things around the world at different times all the time. People are making discoveries or pushing the boundaries, and it is them who move things forward most of the time, and not hold back, as you know, certainly many people I have met personally throughout my childhood did a great effort to try to hold me back rather than push me forward and say, go for it, yay, go, don't worry that you wear a red hat, it's great. Here's a feather, put a feather on top or something, you know. That didn't happen, you know. So it's interesting we do that.
I think it's fun to be able to explore things that are considered fringe or not mainstream or not well known. Like I love, like, the hat industry is one of those things where it's not something that is well known as far as people know how hats are made or manufactured or created. That it fascinates people, and I absolutely love that. And I absolutely love the fact that you were your own person and that the hat gave a spark of life for you to be able to make hats too. And like
Mm.
both of us absolutely fell in love with top hats. And we're like,
Mm.
this is the thing I need in my life.
Yeah. And as I'm now listening to you saying that, and that little thing which has a connection we seem to do across the world, you know, I did that 20 years prior to you, you know, I'm 61. And I am wondering if that was an element of protection already. You know, a hat serves protection. Your
Yeah.
bowler hat, top hat, they are protective, especially the bowler hat. But a headwear is protective. It keeps you from the sun and from the rain, and it protects you if you belong religiously. You know, if you wear it for reasons of belonging to a group. Um, and for me, I think even so, it made me stand out more. At the same time, I think it protected me in a way of letting something not out, to keep it contained. You know, it's sort of a sense of keep contained my thoughts and my confusion, what I had as a teenager, totally all over the place, not knowing where my life was going to go and what I wanted. That's an interesting thought. I shall ponder that one more.
I think it's also like a wonderful, very loud beacon to other people who want to express themselves that way, or like, that's unusual. This is a top hat. I need to talk to that person. Why are they wearing that top hat? That's really nifty. And
Mm,
like, hey, you can come talk to me. I'm approachable because this is interesting. This is a
mm,
conversation starter.
mm. Yeah, it's a bit like a dog or being pregnant. You know, people come up to you and have a dog, or can I pet your stomach? You know, we seem to do that. Now, so then you had fallen in love, and you bought your first block 10 years ago. And how do you work now? Where do you work? And do you have a shop, or how do you operate?
I have my workroom inside of the house. My husband is absolutely delightful, and he's been making me more hat blocks to do more custom hat blocks. I still shop for my antique hat blocks, but mainly it's just I do conventions. Um, I do like events. There's this really fun steampunk event, Renningers Steampunk. It is in Mount Dora. I do that 3 times a year. That is our biggest event that we do. I would absolutely love to have a storefront, but that is just not in the near future right now. So it's just out of the house and events that we can do.
Yeah. And I I was wondering about being in Florida. I don't know. I never thought of there would be. I don't see that. That's again the weirdness of why didn't you think of that, Waltraud? Of Florida, of a place where there would be milliners. I think of I mean, one thing first, hat blocks. You guys in the States, I see so many hat blocks being sold all the time, coming up for sale, especially with Green having stopped. She sold a lot. And I see hat blocks for sale on social media all the time. And just the other day, a big lot sold for $150. I thought, I can't believe it. This is almost like buy an airplane ticket and pick them up. So so there is quite a lot for sale, I thought. So
Yeah.
that's just for your information if you don't know. Do you belong to any of those Facebook groups?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm on a
Okay.
couple of them.
Okay.
I belong to a couple of gentlemen that make hat blocks. Of obviously Guy Morris. I have him added on Facebook. I love his hat blocks are gorgeous. I'm trying to remember the other gentleman who's from
Boone and
France who
Lane.
makes.
Boone,
Um,
Boone and Lane
I think so.
in London,
Oh
England.
no, there's a gentleman from France that makes these really gorgeous aluminum hat blocks, and he also makes wood ones. His stuff is amazing, and I cannot remember his name right now. It's going to drive me nuts, but his stuff is absolutely amazing too. Um, I The work that they do in and of itself is its own beautiful, masterful artistry that I don't think that they get enough credit for. Cause like obviously you get to see the finished work, but their blocks are just so gorgeous, and like the antique blocks last for so long and they turn into like petrified wood. Like
Yeah.
they're wonderful,
Yeah.
masterful works of art.
Yeah. I think you're speaking to something again uh, as a maker. The emphasis we sometimes place on the designer, the maker. Like we know Chanel, we know Dior, we know whatever label or milliners. We might know who is behind in the house of Chanel. We might know, Karl Lagerfeld, and bless his soul. Um, and but we forget who are the people who make it, who are the makers, and in order to get there. And there is a little, I don't think it's so romantic. It's not the fantasy, because the fantasy is the clothes. It's the fantasy is the label, and what the perceived idea I have, what it makes me, if I own one of those things. And there is so many in the workroom, people who have those extraordinary skills, who actually do it. You never know their names. When I think back of my training with Philip Somerville in London, we had 4 on each table. There were 2 rooms, and there was 5 in another room. So, and those names, they have died with the women. Only, the ones who carried on working in their own rights, we know their names again because they are making hats and they are teaching. But you didn't know at the time. At the time, no, Philip Somerville is Philip Somerville. He is the labor, but he didn't know how to make hats. He was a salesman. He inherited that business because the boss he worked for died in a plane crash, and he took over the business, and he built it to something really amazing. But he didn't know how to make hats, and we didn't know the women. And the hat block makers is sort of a bit the same. Who makes the tools? Who makes the shoe lasts? Who makes the threads? And it starts, who are those people in the Philippines and who cut the grasses, who process the grasses, who spend weeks and months getting the fibers happening for the weaving to start.
Yeah.
Who is the name of the 6, 8 people left who make the Panama in Monte Cristi? These old women and men. What is their name? They are nameless faces. And sometimes, and this is what has sort of started to drive me to start talking to people we don't know, necessarily. and who do amazing things. It's who are those blank faces, the nameless faces, and without these nameless faces, you know, the world would be a different place, and a sadder place a little bit. Anyway, now I'm going off sentimental, or a bit too spiritual. But so coming back, where did you educate yourself other than you did a lot of self-taught? I'm hearing out you taught yourself a lot. You looked at old things. What other education? How else did you educate yourself?
I've done mostly self-taught, done Hat Academy. There's the community college that I audited a few classes for costume making, just the millinery course. Um, but I am mostly self-taught. From the Neck Up is the best book that I have
Yeah,
found so far.
yeah, that's a great Bible. Yeah, indeed.
uh, any of the old millinery manuals that I can get that they do the reprints of, and sometimes they have the scans online. I read those. Anything that had the word milliner or millinery or hat making that I could get my hands on, I grabbed.
Mm,
Um, and my old antique hats that were falling apart, just learning about their construction and their materials, and just research, and doing a lot of trial and error.
yeah. Have you found with Corona and having so many so many people and ideas have been pushed into the sphere of what we're doing here now, Zoom teachings and online lessons? Have you found that to be helpful, and that there were classes you wanted to do or you did do and you learned something from?
I actually kind of had a bit of the reverse. On a whim, the hubby who does commercial production, I was like, why don't we film a video of you doing, hat stuff? And I was like, okay, why not? I mean, we're on kind of a hiatus with the COVID and stuck inside. So I started my very first at home hat making 101. Just basically using materials around the house, and like these are places you can order your capelines. This is how you do this, your brim, and this is how you stiffen, et cetera, et cetera. Just something cute and quick. And I posted it online, and I thought nothing of it for a good like 2 or 3 months. And I got an email from someone saying how helpful it was. And I went and checked and saw how many people had actually watched it. And I was completely amazed, and like more videos, more videos. And I was just elated that there are so many people out there excited about hat making and being able to do them in their own homes,
Mm,
that it was just the most wonderful thing to me. And I
mm,
have no idea how to respond to that there's
mm,
so many people that really like the
mm.
video.
Do you want to pop that maybe in the comments, your YouTube chat, if there's people interested, like in to look it up? But it reminds me of something when you're doing this 101. It also fits beautifully with your um, thinking of making old hats, and you are interested in the history. And historically, every female in the house knew how to make a bonnet and had to learn it, and that was part of her skill. And then she learned in the 50s, we made the flowers, and most women had flower making tools at home, and 40s, and they were able to retrim their hats, make their hats, had skills. And there was tutorial in the Women's Weekly. This, I'm just thinking of Women's Weekly because that used to be in Australia an institution, that magazine, for a long time, and whatever the magazines were of the time. So it sounds like that speaks to that, to those people who wouldn't know where to start, but they have a salad bowl, or they have a wok, or they have a waste paper basket, or something which might do the trick. Spoons for making flower petals, and on it goes.
I absolutely love any of the books that actually were like, this is how to repair your hat
Mm,
for like back in the day, like if
mm,
you're, on a budget, and
mm.
like, basically a lot of books and articles for like
Yeah,
literal at-home hat making for
yeah,
women. And it's just
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that does not exist now.
yeah. Look, we are fast running out of time, and I'm just remembering, I want to see some images. Have you got something to show us?
I do, and right now I am pulling up the video so I can put that in. Let me minimize a few things back here.
That's all right.
So let's
Take your
I'm gonna put
time.
this in the
I
chat.
might tell in the meantime, not to put pressure on you, I might tell people in the meantime, if you are interested to come to our next webinar, that will be on the 11th of April. I'm talking to Austria, Milliner in Austria, and there's also a reason why I'm talking on 11th April to Austria. And then we have a webinar. This is a paid webinar on the 25th of April. We are going to make everything, learn everything around the humble bow, how to make any bow you can imagine and how they are made. There you go. We'll see a picture. Somebody sitting prim and proper on a bench.
That's just me at Renninger's. It's one of the steampunk events, and I dress the part. I do hat making demonstrations, which I actually started to do. A friend of mine, I was complaining to her because there are other people there that say that they make hats, which I do not begrudge them what they do. They do trimming. They buy hat forms and glue a lot of gears and things too. And people were wondering why my hats were more expensive. And she's like, why don't you show them why they're more expensive and show them how they're made? So that's how I actually got started doing the tutorials, and people really liked it. So that's where that ball got rolling.
Smart.
um,
And I think you're so right about the education, because people are good people. People in general, they want to do the right thing or do the right thing. But if they don't know what the right thing is, then it's hard for them to do that. And I think there's a constant education of clients to know the hours it takes to make it, the years it takes to learn it and to maintain it, and that there is not many are being sold either, because it's a rare trade and a small market. So therefore, hats cost money. What are we looking here at?
this is actually a still from one of the little commercials that we put together. I made costumes and the hats for the entire commercial. I absolutely love the two of them. The banter back and forth before we were filming was absolutely wonderful and lovely. It was one of my miniature tricorns and one of the large style tricorns, a matching set. This is my logo for my hat company. A lovely girl named Michelle. We picked her because she was very larger than life with her mannerisms for the commercial to be the embodiment of Green Bunny.
How gorgeous. When my granddaughter is 3 years old, I have promised her already, she is now 5 months, but I have promised her already, we shall be walking down the street going shopping in costumes like this.
Oh, yes. That costume was a pain in my tuchus to make.
Oh,
I
wow.
working on it, but oh my goodness, it was hard. So another still from our commercial. Traditional hats. Another one. Those two
So
were
you made
absolutely.
all those hats?
I made all of the hats and mostly all of the costumes.
So the dresses, the jackets, the trousers?
The vests, the yes, the dresses, yes. Trousers, I can't make.
Okay.
So those were just purchased.
Yeah. Well, I look at this here. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I look at the vest, at the top, check the pocket on top. That looks pretty good to me, having made many pockets in my life and struggled terribly with it.
Oh, the welting on pockets is a nightmare.
Yeah.
This is another photo shoot that we did for the website. Absolutely love the two models. They were delightful to work with, wearing one of my traditional fedoras and a flat cap.
They look like, they remind me of Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I totally get that vibe off of them. I have to let
Yeah.
them know that
Yeah.
they'd love that.
Yeah.
And this actually was a special order for a friend of mine, made exactly how he had asked for it. Like this is the gentleman I love to go to for research on history. Like I consider myself knowing like a lot of history about hats and clothing, like pretty well, but he is just so wonderfully knowledgeable about it, and he will actually come with an entire litany of history behind a hat that he is interested in and just tell me all about it, all about the materials, fabrics, and everything. And I absolutely love it. I love making hats for him.
That's great.
And that's the full shot of all of them from the photo shoot. And I think that might be the last one.
Nice.
Oh, no. This is a shoot that we did for a cigar company. As a part, my husband and I, we worked on to do an advertisement for the cigar company. I did the costuming and the hats for this.
Wow. It certainly gives the feeling of Chicago in the 30s. I could be wrong because, you know, I'm not American, but it certainly has or maybe earlier even. No,
yeah,
30.
going definitely for the
yeah.
old
Her
school
hat
vibe.
is very much sort of 30s, the flatness of it. Mm.
That's one of my favorite hats to make. It's a design that I modified an old Victorian style hat, and I call it the Lizzie. It's one of my more fun hats to make. That's me, and one of my perch hats.
I would not have recognized you as you. That is a version of you.
Yes.
Because we are,
yeah, just the fedora.
And a lovely vintage Petersham.
Oh, that color too. I was so lucky to find that.
Yeah, it's definitely.
It doesn't come off as vibrant as it actually is in real life, but it's a lovely lilac.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, look, is there anything you would like to say we didn't get to even say? You might have had something you wanted us to know.
No, just probably what I've reiterated a bazillion times while we were talking, that I just want future generations of people to learn more about hat making, as little or as much as they want to. And I'm going to continue making videos for people to be able to make them at home the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, just getting enthused and planting seeds and getting people hooked. I think that is that offering of getting them started somewhere. And then there's many opportunities out there where they can go and learn more. Like you were saying earlier, there's not much in the States. There's quite a few teachers I know of who teach. I have traveled the States several times teaching before, well, actually around 11, and then it became harder and harder with the restrictions and the traveling. But you have got Denise Wallace. You need to look her up.
Definitely.
She is one of those kind souls who is not hiding, and not afraid. I'm sure she's afraid. You know, we all have fear in us about how much to give or what to teach or what will that mean, or putting yourself out there. You know, different kind of fears. But she is not held back by that. She does offer, and she does on a Friday. She has a Friday fun Friday. I think it's the Friday afternoon for you guys in the States. I'm always so confused with the time difference. Where she goes live on Facebook, and she always has got interesting things she shares. Then you have Jen Woodkowski. I don't know if you know of her, but she travels in and teaches in different paths. She sort of flies or drives. Jen Woodkowski, have you heard of her?
Does
No,
she actually do the Hat Academy workshops?
no,
Um,
no,
oh, she doesn't.
no, no. Jen Woodkowski started in the States the millinery get together. We started in here in Australia the conferences, the millinery conferences,
I've
and
seen that on the Facebook pages.
yeah, and I brought Jen out first for one of those conferences, and then she came. She was back invited by the organizers 3 times, I think, and then she took that idea back to the States and started that in the States. Now somebody else runs it, which I'm afraid this name is now stuck there. If anybody knows you guys, please put it in the chat. Um, and then that would, and then who else do I immediately springs to mind? But yes, then there's on the online classes. Some of Australians have now come out. Jen Wutkowski would bring them for that millinery meetup. That's what it's called, millinery meetup. And who else do I know? Oh, Jay Cow, I think. Jay Cow lives in Canada, but I know she has taught in New York. I think she did one class.
Yeah, I wanted to go so bad.
Yeah, Jay Cow has been I've known for a long time. She's done several classes with me, and I also in Hong Kong when she lived in Hong Kong. I taught there. Yeah, so there is people out there, and I think the learning is important that we educate ourselves. I learned today, and I've been in millinery for such a long time, and I could easily say there's nothing new under the sun. And I think what's new under the sun is that every time something new grows, it grows in a different way. Yes, it might still be a particular flower, but how that flower is formed and how many petals and leaves it has is going to be different, and how long it standing short or long. So there's always something I feel, and I get so excited when that happens. And just having a chat with you, I mean, I know a new human now. I've spoken to you. A couple of weeks ago, I didn't even know you existed. And I don't know how you popped into my screen. And I thought, okay, well, obviously, I should talk to her. It was weird. And it's just nice. And that it connects me to my dear Ellie O'Sullivan in Florida. So just quickly, 2 questions which are here. I just want to ask. It's will you be carrying on making hats, even though it's hard to make a living?
Yes. No
Yes.
matter what I do, whatever else I have to do on the side, I will always be making hats.
Yeah. And if you would be opening a shop, where would you be opening it?
Probably in Winter Park, Florida, or Sanford, Florida.
Okay. All right.
We have looked at shops, but then COVID happened.
Yeah. Well, sometimes your trade suits very well, maybe in an alleyway, in a hole in a wall, somewhere, which is not really that important. Big
Mysterious hat shop.
Exactly. There is a milliner who is over 100 years old, goes back to the Australian-Hungarian monarchy in Austria, in Vienna. And this workshop has not changed since it was first established. And when this person died or was getting too old to do it, a Orthodox Jew approached him and asked if he would take him on and show him the ropes. And he carried on and is carrying on now in the same way, with the same tools as it has been. And it is, you can visit, it goes up a stairway, a few steps, and round the corner, and you go into this creaky little thing. And
Oh,
yeah, so that would be a place you need to put on your bucket list.
oh my God, yes. Definitely.
We got to stop. And I thank everyone for being so kind and coming and joining us in this. It's so nice to know there's somebody there listening to a story of a person who is worthwhile being told, because we all have a story, and our story is worth a book, and it's important and it's worthwhile to be told. Because when this person one day does not exist anymore, it is like a library is burning down, because all this knowledge is going with that person. So we got to find out those stories before that happens. So maybe ask somebody today and sit down with a cup of tea and listen to someone else's story. And with that, I want to say goodbye to you. Thank you, Bunny, for being here. Thank you for meeting, and I'll see you around the tracks. Maybe
Thank you
next
for
time.
letting me share my story.
Bye.